Hey everyone, it's Allie here, award-winning author, international book coach, and ghostwriter with the right place, right time. I'm jumping in here because it's Monday, which means it's time for the Memoir Minute, although today might be a little bit longer than that, as the last few have been. Today, though, I want to cover 5 things that I learned the hard way when I wrote my first book. Now, for some context, Dear Universe, I Get It Now, Letters on the Art and Journey of Being Brave, Being Me came out in 2020. And while I had been studying writing basically my entire life, I have a master's of fine arts in creative writing. I was the president of a nonprofit writing organization here in Vermont for a number of years. I got to rub elbows with literary agents who came to the state for a conference. I knew what it meant to write and publish a book. Um, that said, it's very different when you know something in theory and when you do something in application. And when I went to write my first book, Dear Universe, I Get It Now, I also decided to go the indie route and not go traditional publication, which was a whole other thing to learn um, because that wasn't what I had studied. And so that was a pretty unfamiliar avenue to me that I was kind of learning as I went. And the reason that we're talking about the 5 things I learned the hard way, one is so that you don't have to learn it the hard way yourself, and two, because it's November and that's when my book came out. So, in honor of this particular book's 3rd year anniversary and all the things that I learned on the path and that I want to pass forward, pay it forward, pass on to other aspiring writers, I wanted to share the 5 things with you that Dear Universe, I Get It Now taught me along the journey. And the first of those is ABCD. And so this little acronym stands for approach your book with a commitment to doing it right. Approach your book with a commitment to doing it right. Um, I had started off writing Dear Universe, I Get It Now, thinking that I was just going to do this short, quick, easy book, and it didn't have to be beautiful or brilliant or wonderful because it was just a marketing stunt. And that was really the wrong attitude to go into it with, and something that my partner at the time called out for me. Like, this is a lifelong dream of yours. Quit calling it a marketing stunt. And turned out that that was just a way for me to ease my worry, my overwhelm, my fear, my doubt of actually doing this thing, of actually going after a lifelong dream by calling it something that it wasn't, trying to minimize its impact um, so that I would actually do it and I wouldn't chicken out or I wouldn't procrastinate or I wouldn't self sabotage. But really, I should have just gone into it being like, I'm going to make this the best damn thing that I'm going to, and I'm not going to cut any corner. I'm not going to take any hack. And that's essentially what did end up happening was I changed my whole attitude and intention around it. But that's not how it began. So definitely start off in the beginning with the right mindset, the right intention that you can do this, you will do this, it will be the best you possibly can do, and go for it wholeheartedly. The second one is knowing the numbers. Um, I went in like, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to write this book. And I really didn't have an understanding of how long my book was going to be, how long I wanted it to be, and therefore how much money editing would cost. Any kind of editing, a manuscript evaluation, a line edit, a proofread, cover design, what typesetting and interior layout was going to cost me. I pretty much knew that I wouldn't have to pay for anybody to write the book because I was writing it myself. And I knew what the independent publisher I was using, I knew what their contract costed, but that was it. Um, I didn't have those other numbers written down. And so I was just spending money as I had it and as I needed to spend it to get the book done. But like it would have been a lot better to have known in hindsight how much that whole book was going to cost before I got going. All right. Have a timeline. Um, I didn't really have a timeline. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing and maybe I'll shoot for this date. And that date would roll around and be like, maybe I shoot for this date. And then, of course, COVID happened. And now my timeline was all off because I wasn't really sure how I was going to manage finishing the book in the midst of all the other things that COVID was impacting in my life, business, momhood, all those things. But having a timeline is really important. So you at least have something to work towards and something to keep you moving forward. Even when things get crazy, like stick to your timeline. Even if you have to bend and flex in the long run, don't go into it without one because otherwise you can be a little too willy nilly, a little less committed to actually getting it done because, you're like, yeah, whenever is good. So have a timeline. Another thing that I learned the hard way was about thinking like a bookseller. So, when it was time to launch the book, I came up with this great idea to launch the book inside. Um, I think I had 10 of them, these 10 boxes where you could buy the book and then a bunch of things that match the book, like a composition notebook, a mug, a bookmark, a pen, and it came with like a 30-minute call with me. And I only had 10 of them. They went off like that, like they were sold within the first 24 hours, which was amazing. But it didn't really occur to me, right? Like how much would the box cost to ship given how, you know, big it would be or how much it was going to weigh or which state it was going to and, who was going to package those boxes up and who was going to bring them to the post office. So I really should have been thinking like, okay, if I'm selling a good or a product, what are all of the things that are involved in selling that good or the product? The other thing that I didn't account for was like, the first 30 or 60 days or whatever after your book goes live is really when people want it. I think some people were buying it as a holiday gift because it was November when it was released, November 30th to be exact. And so all of a sudden, here I was with 1 month out from like Christmas and the New Year's. Everybody's buying this book. And so not only am I trying to do all of the end of year business stuff and all of the holiday stuff, but I'm also having to now package up the book in individual mailers and go to the post office and stand in line. And I hadn't even thought about any of those things because I was just concerned about getting the book out there. And the last thing to recognize is that your job is never done. The book will come into the world, but you have to promote it. You have to continue to promote it. Otherwise, it's not going to sell. Nobody's going to know that it exists. And all of the effort that you've put in to getting that book out there into the world is going to be for nothing if you don't continue to promote it. So remember that getting through the manuscript development, getting through the publication is only the front end of the journey. It's definitely not the whole journey. Um, so those are my top 5, and I'm hoping that you aspiring authors who are out there get something from these 5 to think about as you are jumping onto this path. If you would like to speak more intentionally about your book and what you're thinking and what you need to know ahead of time, then please, I would love to have you join me for a story stroll. It's a one-to-one individual conversation over the phone for about 20 minutes, totally free. So if that interests you, DM me, let's set something up, and let's make 2024 your year to finally get your book started.